The Matthew Books. Matthew, Tell Me About Heaven, a first-hand description of the afterlife by Suzanne Ward, published by Matthew Books. Part 2, Nirvana. Transitioning Souls. Suzanne. Matthew, what do you do as a medical assister? Matthew, I've been wondering when you would ask me that, Mother. You ask Eric about the progress of his company, and ask Betsy about her teaching, and ask Michael how his sales are coming along. And you've asked me about those important aspects of their lives. But until now, you've never asked me about my work. I know that in the past, mediums have told you what I'm doing, but this is the first time you have thought of me in the same natural way you do your other children, by directly talking with me about what I'm doing. Mother, do you see the great difference in how we in this realm are regarded versus people on Earth, even by you? Suzanne. You're right, Matthew, and I don't know what else to say. Matthew, I can feel your heavy distress, Mother, and I didn't mean to cause that. I overreacted to your question, and I'm sorry. This has given me new insight and a valuable reminder that some things I still expect. Having expectations of others is just as undesirable as making a judgment, which I also was doing. Now, I see my need to more readily recognize and avoid these two characteristics, as progress in spiritual growth, here or there, is outgrowing them. You see, just as I've told you several other times, you still are giving me opportunities to learn from you. I'm glad you're feeling better about this, Mother. So am I. Now then, I'm immensely pleased to tell you what I do. In brief, I help souls who need specialized assistance after their arrival. Like the others in the soul transition assistance field, I think of my work as a service, not a job. I didn't start as a medical assister. After I adjusted to leaving my Earth lifetime, I became a welcomer, which is greeting transitioning souls who arrive in relatively healthy psychic condition. At that time, I was studying medicine and later psychology. Then, in addition to my greeting work, I started helping babies and little children adjust to this realm. That experience and my studies led to my initial assignment as medical assister. When I became proficient at helping the souls whose situations were especially difficult, I was assigned permanently to do this specialized assistance. I moved along the ranks quite rapidly to a position of higher responsibility than most of the others. That meant a greater number of assisters to be responsible for, as well as personally tending the most difficult arrivals' particular needs. Without scanning for an accurate count, I'd say that I have treated about 10,000 people. That's not counting the ones I helped as a greeter or those who didn't require much medical attention, but only the more difficult souls whom I helped to make transition. Maybe that doesn't seem like a lot for the time I've been here, but most of those souls required intensive and lengthy therapy, and just as physicians there remain with their patients until full health is restored, I do also. Mother, the reception and care of arrivals is so crucial for people on Earth to know that I want to explain the entire process, starting at the beginning with what you call death and we call transition. When the physical body dies, there is an instantaneous adjustment in the electrical system of the etheric body, so it can leave Earth intact and arrive in nirvana already attuned to the higher frequency here. That adjustment is made in the lightning flash movement when the etheric body separates from the physical body and clothes the soul for its alignment on the way to that light passage often described as a tunnel in the near-death experience. There is absolutely nothing stressful or fearful about that journey. But it happens so quickly that the arrival's memories of circumstances immediately prior to transition are as real upon entry here as they were when the person was experiencing those circumstances on Earth. The memories profoundly affect the arrival's capacity to adjust to his etheric body, and when the memories are of traumatic experiences, a personalized and usually long healing process is required. Since the etheric body has been with the soul throughout its physical lifetime, it is intact when it enters with the soul into this realm, but it needs assistance to usher in its strength. When the arrival is in sound condition, that ushering in process can be accomplished with ease. In the case of a severely traumatized arrival, the process requires the combined energy of a highly trained medical assister and an attendant group of 10 aides. It is the unique soul energy stream of each arrival that lets us know his identity and psychic condition. Through an energy correlation process, each arrival enters the station appropriate for his immediate needs. The energy streams also let us anticipate the number of arrivals so that sufficient assistance always is at the ready. Although telepathic communication can be understood by arrivals, native speech is important, particularly in a stressful entry, so the welcomers and assisters converse with them in their native tongues. Many of us study languages in order to do this. The welcomers, who also may be called transition greeters, are the first to meet arrivals at our regular entry stations. They're like hospitality people anywhere who assist newcomers, and they're present in addition to family and friends on hand. Often, emotionally well-adjusted arrivals need only greeting and introduction to the realm. In this case, the welcomers describe the spectrum of the realm's accommodations for their immediate needs, comfort, and interests. Housing, food, studies, employment, social events, the realm's governing system, all of that is explained prior to the administrators becoming involved in the actual logistics of helping the arrivals get settled. Mother, you've been thinking how impersonal it is to refer to the arriving souls as arrivals. Yes, it is, and I'm only doing this so you can distinguish between persons in arrival status and their own souls, as well as to differentiate between those newly arrived souls and the soul population already here. As you're thinking, newcomers sounds a lot friendlier, but there are constantly newcomers to the realm who are not transitioning from Earth. Our general word for arrivals is souls, but every one of them is known by name and addressed by name. So you see, our reception of every arrival is intensely personal, and all care is individualized for the specific needs of each. Suzanne, thank you for mentioning that. Let me get in a question here. You've said that we remember our other lifetimes when we enter nirvana, so why is the same information given about the realm every time? Matthew, memories of other lifetimes don't come instantly at the soul's moment of entry. When there is an easy and quick adjustment, full awareness of previous residency here emerges smoothly and steadily, like molasses being poured, not like toast popping up. Remembering comes more slowly to arrivals who need regular medical assistance, and much more slowly to those whose death was under traumatic circumstances. Reintroduction, if you will, to the realm is gracious, considerate, and helpful, and I assure you it is welcomed by the arrivals. Now then, people who need regular medical assistance are those whose experiences immediately prior to transition were relatively free of trauma, but due to debilitated health, their physical bodies have a lingering hold over the etheric bodies. We must treat that condition so the etheric bodies are not injured. These arrivals enter at treatment stations with tranquil, quietly cheerful private rooms and wards, where sweet-smelling, natural fragrances lightly fill the air and pastel colors waft like fluttering sheer curtains at an open window. Outside in these areas, the sky is softly blue, not its usual brilliance, and there are warm, light breezes. Soothing music is almost inaudible, yet gently stirring for the emotions due to its beautiful chords and fragile harp-like sounds. The entire setting is fluid, with a sensation of soft, warm motion, and all elements are gentle in composition, color, and tone. This restorative setting is ideal for arrivals with relatively healthy psyches and bodies that endured only a short terminal illness, or bodies frail and weary simply from a very long time of functioning. Even though these arrivals don't require any extreme measures of medical care during their reception, always medical assisters are in attendance because this is reassuring to the convalescents. The reception and treatment environment is much different for arrivals in acute distress. They enter at intensive care stations where they immediately start receiving individualized care. In treating these traumatic arrivals, we are dealing with both the body and the damaged psyche, whereas the soul is liberated into spiritual awareness. The person's psyche is still operating at its lowered capacity in the last events experienced by the physical body on earth. The soul is constant. It grows from the experiences, but it is beyond the captive aspect of the psyche, which has great need for healing. Without the healing, life here, just as anywhere else, would be hell for those people with brutalized psyches. Some of them endured lengthy illness that caused intense physical pain, vastly restricted activity, and grief. Perhaps fear also, and sorrowful regret at their conditions' effects on family and friends. The etheric bodies of those souls who are worn out from battling disease, debilitation, and anxiety have to be medically tended because the memory of physical pain is powerful even in the shadow effects associated with loss, mutilation, or degeneration of physical body parts. Obviously, these people's spirits also are in need of tender nurturing for recuperation, so both medical and psychological care is required. The same is true of arrivals whose physical death was caused quickly by massive injuries, perhaps in vehicle crashes or fires or violent storms or earthquakes. The psyches of people who were tortured and murdered suffer profound trauma, as do war victims, troops maimed and killed in combat, as well as the civilian innocents whose earth lives were ended by the horrors of war. People who make transition during or soon after any of these situations arrive traumatized in spirit beyond description, still psychically experiencing their recent terror on earth. Rarely do they understand that they now are safe in this realm. They believe they have been rescued from the hell so recently endured, but usually they think the rescue was on earth. When they no longer need the ultimate in private care, they are moved to rehabilitation wards where their recovery is aided by therapists in an atmosphere carefully designed to uplift their spirits and give reassurance of their healing progress. There is another kind of arrival very needing of loving attendance. Those who came with heavy guilt, remorse, or sorrow require extensive psychological care to heal their damaged psyches. Generally, they respond more quickly than the arrivals from traumatic physical deaths, but not always. When those emotional conditions are in conjunction with other psychic and physical traumas, recovery and adjustment time is far greater. Suzanne, with realigning energy and providing a healing musical environment as your only treatment modalities, I don't understand where all the individualized care comes in. Matthew, this isn't a cookie-cutter haven, Mother. We reach out to each soul in its most recent incarnated personage, and personalized care and conversation is just as essential here as it is for all patients in hospitals on Earth. It's exactly those same psyches we greet and assist in adjustment here. We have the advantage that the soul remembrance comes forth as soon as people adjust to being here, but as I have told you, it comes much more slowly to those who arrive in seriously traumatized condition. Suzanne, is there support treatment, like our support groups for people who have suffered similar devastation? Matthew, no, every arrival's treatment is customized throughout recovery. Not even families are treated in a group when they make transition simultaneously or within moments of each other. Each soul arrives by itself and is treated individually because each has unique needs requiring instant and intimate attention. Those who were together at the time of death may wish to be reunited, and that happens as soon as they are healed enough to do so. Suzanne, I think it would be beneficial healing-wise and compassionate to treat family members who died at the same time or within moments of each other as a group so they can know they're all together. Matthew, Mother, I'll give you an example of why that can't be done. A mother is in pain from injuries in a civil war she abhors, in shock and grief for her little daughter who has just died in her arms after a brief illness, and in great anxiety because her teenaged son is in the thick of combat. Moments later, she arrives here after a fatal head injury from flying debris, and her anguish, fear, and pain are as acute as they were during the area-wide bombing that caused her physical death. Her son is in excellent health until the moment he is blown to bits in that same bombing that caused his mother's death. He has no knowledge of what has happened to his mother and sister. He is young, imbued with a sense of indestructibility that tempers his fear in battle. Furthermore, he was schooled in war and taught to consider it his right and responsibility to kill the enemy. You can see that both his psyche and his body would require considerably different treatment than either his mother or his sister needs. That is why group treatment, even for a small family, never would be attempted. It would not even be possible because it is the individual soul, not unified souls, that makes transition. Suzanne, thank you for explaining that, Matthew. All of this is so new to me that I guess I'm superimposing on Nirvana what could happen in the same situations here. Matthew, Mother, it's natural that you would try to relate to some of the things I tell you because other things are so astounding to you that sometimes you think I don't know what I'm talking about. Now then, I'll give you an actual example of how we treat a traumatized arrival. You are seeing a wounded soldier in combat uniform sitting on a cot, in heat of battle anger, fear, and fighting forcefulness, and someone who is gently trying to soothe him. Just as in the image I'm sending, the soldier's body appears here to be solid, like earth flesh, and the cot also appears to be solid. That is an illusion we manifest because it is necessary at this stage of his acclimation to this realm. Soldiers in combat have to balance the reality of death with the sense of their own invincibility so they can focus on survival. This difficult psychic maneuvering, plus the shock of battle and the horror of being surrounded by dead comrades and the screams of the wounded, has put this soldier in an extremely agitated state. It's necessary to let him realize that this is a change from his last earth surroundings, which we do by easing the battlefield conditions in which he had been living and dying. Little by little, his last memories are eliminated by that gradual removal of the scene around him until he is able to accept that he has left his earth body and has entered this new life. The transition must be slow and realistic to him, or his psyche will be shocked into a state where healing is a major repair. Not that the assistance already needed and being rendered isn't of major significance, but I am speaking relatively. Suzanne, it would seem that realism for that soldier would mean having acres of fighting around him. Can he see his dead comrades if they're receiving the same kind of treatment nearby? Well, since you've said every soul arrives separately, I suppose he's alone with his medical attendant in a battlefield atmosphere. Matthew, no, Mother, he's not the only soldier here. I just sent you a close-up image so you could clearly see the solidity of his body and the cot. Yes, he can see some of his dead comrades nearby, and that is at once helpful and a hindrance because of possible confusion, as other men he just as recently had seen are not there. Grouping these men at this stage is not in conflict with our treating each arrival individually in accordance with specific healing needs. To avoid further psychic damage, it is essential that these soldiers' dying environment be portrayed accurately, and their comrades' presence is part of this realism. This group of soldiers who were killed almost simultaneously numbers about 10, with varying attitudes regarding death and heaven. They arrived at stations where their soul level energy permitted, and their psychic adjustment can best be served, the initial stage of which you were just viewing. Each in the group has his own energy attunement to follow from this point forward. Some of these men may be quite advanced in soul evolution and very soon be aware of their entry into the spirit realm. We have seen newly arrived soldiers with such advanced evolvement that they knew instantly where they were and quickly helped others nearby accept their transition. Other men in this group may have very serious review ahead. As for the image you saw, yes, it was only a small portion of a reenacted battle environment, minus the deafening sounds and the gore of Earth reality. However, acres of battle would not have been an accurate image to send you because we don't see that either. What we see is more like flash scenes in a movie where viewers have a glimpse of one character and his situation, then another character and his, and so on. Even though a little time is spent developing each vignette, viewers are meant to understand that all of the developments are happening simultaneously. We see glimpses of individual souls in varying stages of comprehension and needs for transition assistance. We're led to the place where we need to be by the energy connection that is established. I know you're wondering how the differentiation can be achieved in that chaos, and I don't know how to explain this to you, Mother, but I can assure you that it works to perfection. As I've mentioned before, our primary healing mechanism is vibrations, which is why music is so essential. Healthy individuals here have a vibratory rate between two definite points, allowing for some variation corresponding to rising or falling enthusiasm, excitement, or whatever emotion causes a rate change. Since we have no fearful or angering circumstances to deal with, a rise from the normal rate is only for positive reasons. Arrivals have a much different set of rates, which are geared to their belief systems throughout life on Earth and the circumstances of physical life and death. Suzanne, I see. Are children received the same as adults? Matthew, every child is greeted with special tenderness and loving energy and given the same personal and diligent care as all other souls. Children who arrive in comparatively sound body and mind soon are able to join the children in the large, cheerful homes I've described, where they are lovingly nurtured. Children with acute needs for physical or psychic healing receive continuous, customized care and medical expertise in an environment designed appropriately for their age and condition, with some appointments manifested to be happily familiar to the child. With progress toward health, the child is treated to companions other than the constant caregivers and entertainment suitable for his or her recovery level. Understandably, the younger the children are when they come, the easier they adjust to the realm. Older children remember more and are more aware of missing Earth family for the time their souls are growing beyond their psyches. Once that happens, and again, in some cases this is almost immediate because of soul evolvement, they eagerly join the other children in those inviting big homes and enthusiastically embark upon a happy, fulfilling life. Suzanne, if their families could know this, it could be such a great comfort to them. I have more questions. How many transitionist sisters are there in total, and how many are on duty at any one time? Do you have scheduled work periods and time off? Without clocks or any sense of our time, how do you know when to report and leave? Matthew, I can't tell you an exact total, Mother, but millions are trained in this field. That count doesn't include welcomers, only medical assisters, with souls constantly leaving as well as arriving, and naturally the departures include many in our field. I'd say that only our census takers know moment by moment exact numbers of us, with sufficient training to fill service posts. It is true on Earth there are ascending degrees of expertise and experience, with corresponding degrees of responsibilities. Interns, you might call them, are not given full-time assignments until they have mastered all of the education and training and completed a period of supervised service, and until then, they are not considered part of our ranks. Also, please remember that each assister stays with the souls he met at transition until their recovery is complete, and many of us cannot add to our caseload. The number of assisters on duty varies with the situation on Earth, but always enough of us are on hand so that arrivals never are left ungreeted instantly or unattended in any moment. With deaths happening there en masse, many thousands of us are ready to meet and assist in the first instant of transition. There aren't thousands of separate entrances, but there are thousands of individual entries, often simultaneously, say casualties of a massive earthquake who are in addition to those who are dying from all other causes. Space is not a consideration since we don't have the bulk of physical bodies needing room as you perceive it. No reason is urgent enough for any assister or welcomer to desert the service post and leave arrivals unattended. Since time doesn't exist, it's not easy to assess how long we work without a break, and since we have no sensation of tiring physically or emotionally, fatigue is not a limiting factor. We simply work as needed. When many arrivals are anticipated, obviously more assisters are needed and for longer periods. We have an infallible energy notification system. A series of energy pulses lets us know whether the worker ranks are filled or are in need of replacements or additions. Because of our great numbers, not all of us are needed at once, even in those peak times in numbers of arrivals. But it isn't a haphazard arrangement of simply whoever feels like it can show up, such as when relatives or friends may be arriving. When the need is automatically registered through the energy connections, at only a thought we are transported to the scene. When another soul already is there, the second to arrive may stay for a team effort or move to the next energy blip that signals another imminent arrival. Suzanne, how do you arrange free time for our sittings and all your other interests and activities? Matthew, we have an established hierarchy responsible for the overall welcoming and assisting of arrivals, and when all service posts are manned, the rest of us are free to be doing whatever we wish. That is true for all souls here. We never feel work interferes with our other avenues of interest. My work is not only a significant accomplishment, it is a great pleasure and honor to be involved in this service at my level of responsibility. And I can assure you, Mother, I have plenty of time for all of my other pursuits. Suzanne, what happens if you are on duty and you learn that one of your family here has an emergency? Matthew, if I were attending an arrival and you were in an emergency situation, this is how things would proceed. Gregory, your guardian angel, would be the first contact with your emergency vibration. His energy call automatically would reach me and all others in this realm who are closely bonded with you. When I receive this notification, I summon my assistant who is trained to take over. He instantly appears on the scene. Then I'm released of the energy bond with the arrival, and I can direct this energy toward bonding with you. All of this happens within a wink, like a light coming on. Yet many steps of energy bonding and releasing are accomplished, so there is no delay in reaching you and no interruption in aid to the arrival. Suzanne, Matthew, thank you for all of this information. I never imagined that such complex care and coordination would be needed and supplied there. Matthew, there's another aspect of all this that I think you'll find interesting, Mother. When each person arrives, Nirvana is exactly what that individual imagined heaven to be during his earth lifetime. The energy of the convictions within the individual psyche creates for him the heaven of those convictions. Usually, this is in great error. The truth of Nirvana comes to each person with adjustment to being here. Maybe I should say that accepting that truth is the adjustment. It is not what the person's soul realizes, but what the person's psyche holds. During the period of remembering what this realm truly is, because the knowledge is there, it simply has been forgotten. The arrival's erroneous ideas remain intact psychically, but they cannot be permitted to remain very long. Every soul's realities affect this placement, but the effects are especially impactful when those realities differ from the universal laws. The energy frequency of all souls in this level of the realm is the same. Otherwise, they couldn't enter here. But their thought forms in error of the truth and their negative attitudes in any respect cannot be allowed to continue because they would change our entire energy field. That is one reason the therapy so carefully designed for each individual is of paramount importance. Our entry stations are far more than gracious welcome areas and medical care facilities. They are the initial stage of adroit efforts to quickly transmute that negatively affected energy that is so pervasive in arrivals and avert its proliferation. Suzanne, it's almost overwhelming to think about all this, Matthew, but it's comforting too. Heaven definitely is not just the eternal serenity and all-knowing place I used to think it is. On a lighter note, what do you wear when you're working? Matthew, we wear whatever is expected by each arrival, and because we are completely aware of all the expectations of each, we know ahead of time the most appropriate dress. A familiar Earth-type outfit helps prevent further shock to people who need easing into this placement. so we wear whatever is in keeping with the circumstances of the people's physical death. For instance, at the hospital stations for arrivals from Western cultures, the usual clothing is the white or pastel-colored uniforms of your medical professions, or casual clothing, most often jeans and t-shirts. When arrivals come from cold climates, they most recently have seen people in heavy coats, so we wear heavy coats. Attire familiar to soldiers would be a uniform like their medics wear, while a member of a street gang would more likely expect to see someone in sneakers, jeans, and leather jackets, and we dress accordingly. Jeans, the universal dress code on Earth, is much more common wear for our welcomers and medical assisters than white robes. However, arrivals who pass over due to long-term illness or simply many decades of living usually are met by welcomers in white robes, or perhaps suits or dresses. People in fragile conditions are expecting to die, you could say, and they feel more comfortable seeing someone in a traditional white outfit they've associated with the pearly gates. For arrivals from areas where ethnic dress is common, we wear outfits appropriate to their regions, and for tribal populations, the ceremonial attire of the gods and their religions. It takes no effort to be thoughtful in this respect. It's just as easy for us to manifest a lavish headdress or multicolored gown as it is white robes and jeans. Suzanne, that is such a sensitive and practical consideration. I never thought before what you'd be wearing when I arrive. Now I'll expect to see you in jeans. What do Nirvana's residents typically wear? Matthew, during adjustment to the realm, they usually wear clothing they were accustomed to on Earth. So a wide variety of styles is always evident. But eventually, a white robe with a sash becomes the usual choice for ordinary occasions. Because it's comfortable, Mother. That's why.